Hamas and Iran. Saudi Arabia is also pushing for the Arab world to reintegrate Syria's President Bashar al-Assad. It's a far cry from what Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised to do when he took office, that is secure a normalization agreement with Riyadh. To talk more about that, we're joined by Jonathan Schanzer, Senior Vice President for Research at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. Just last week, of course, Israel was under attack on multiple fronts, and now we see Saudi Arabia apparently embracing all of Israel's enemies. Are you concerned?
Look, I think it certainly should be concerning for everyone who's looking for stability in the region. One would have hoped that we would have seen pragmatic states like Saudi Arabia, along with the UAE, Bahrain, and others, condemning the Iranian axis. Instead, what we see is a warming toward the Iranian axis. As you mentioned, the normalization with Syria, the outreach to Hamas. And then, of course, the Fatah faction is somewhere in the middle of all of this. It's not quite a pragmatic actor. It's not quite a radical actor here, but certainly an enemy of stability in the region. So I think a lot of change is happening here right now. And as noted in previously, it's happening in the shadow of the new agreement between China and Iran and Saudi Arabia. So certainly everything seems to be upside down in the region as opposed to, let's say, 3 months ago.
Right, well, and compared to a year ago, it seems to be completely turned on its head, doesn't it? We just had the first round of the Negev Forum, the follow-up to the Abraham Accords. There was supposed to be another round of talks this year. Are the Abraham Accords going into reverse?
I don't think they're going into reverse. I mean, I think we saw some, I think very solid messaging coming out of the UAE, Bahrain, and I think, even Morocco is still holding strong. Sudan obviously is going through some internal turmoil, and I think its fate remains to be seen. But I think the real story here is that the region just 2 years ago was on the precipice of what appeared to be peace breaking out across all of these various actors, with Saudi Arabia at the front of the line. 2 years on, after Biden administration policy signaling that it's perhaps leaving the Middle East, wagging its finger at various actors for transgressions real and imagined, it now appears that the Biden administration has lost the region. They're turning towards Russia. They're turning towards China. They don't seem to be as interested in working with Israel. And I think this is ultimately on the Biden administration's shoulders for having eroded a significant opportunity in the Middle East.
Well, is it that, or is it just that the Arab states have decided to look after their own interests first? We're seeing a prisoner exchange underway in Yemen. We're seeing the Arab countries embrace Bashar al-Assad, having accepted that they can't beat him. I mean, is this entirely down to a failure of US leadership, or is it just these Arab countries looking out for their own interests?
Well, I think there's a question of what is in their own interest. Is it normalizing with a genocidal regime in Syria that is partnering with an Iranian regime that is destabilizing the region? It's hard to see how this is ultimately benefiting the region. There could be hedging, of course, that's going on, and I think many of the Gulf Arab states are known to do exactly that. They will move with the political wind. But I do see that the lack of American leadership, largely speaking, has hurt the cause of normalization and stabilization. One could also argue, of course, that some of the turmoil that we've seen in Israel since the new government of Benjamin Netanyahu has taken over has not exactly projected stability either. So perhaps those two things coupled together, the lack of American leadership and the instability in Israel, perhaps have turned off some of these Arab states. But they are clearly hedging, and it is a backslide without question from where we were 2 years ago.
Jonathan Schanzer at the FDD, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.